Moving on now to our power crisis. In the past 10 years, the price of electricity has more than doubled. But Eskom says it needs more money to allow for a steady power supply. The energy giant is now asking the High Court to review the National Energy Regulator of South Africa's rejection of its multi-year pricing plan. Nersa rejected the utility's application for a 3-year tariff determination. The energy regulator says it's still working on a pricing methodology. It asked Eskom to instead make an application for the 2022-2023 financial year. Eskom says the timelines to implement a new methodology are too short. It says the regulator has created a regulatory vacuum and the utility will struggle to operate. For more on this, we're now joined by Sampson Mamphweli. He's the director of Stellenbosch University's Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy. Sampson, thank you so much for your time. This new methodology that Nersa wants to implement, how much do we know about it? And would it represent a win for the households that are struggling to pay for electricity?
Good morning to you and the viewers. As things stand, we don't know much about the new methodology. What we know is that there is an existing methodology that was developed some time ago that Nersa has been using together with Eskom. And Eskom has been submitting their applications using that particular methodology. And Nersa has been struggling to approve Eskom's submissions. We know that for instance, in the year 2017, 2018, somewhere around 2019 as well, Nersa made some mistakes on the calculations using the existing methodology that resulted in us having to have kind of a backlog in terms of our tariff increases, which the courts later ruled in favor of Eskom to say those tariff increases should be effective. So I agree with Eskom that there's a lot of wrong on the side of Nersa at the moment. Nersa wants to introduce now a new methodology that they're saying that Eskom must now rely on to do a new application. I agree that it's a little bit too late for now. Eskom is already in huge debts, partly because of the previous kind of applications that were not treated properly by Nersa. So Eskom needs to recover the money from those previous submissions. So the new methodology can come maybe after 3 or 4 years. It cannot be implemented at this point in time.
So it seems here, Sampson, that it's really Nersa that don't have their ducks in a row at the moment. And Eskom says there's a risk of catastrophic harm to Eskom and South Africa. What could go wrong if we don't get this sorted out?
A lot can go wrong in terms of the tariff increases. One, Eskom will lose revenue. In terms of the Electricity Regulation Act and the existing methodology, Eskom is supposed to recover the cost of generation and make a little bit of income out of the electricity sales. Now, if that does not happen, it's going to have a huge impact on the balance sheet of Eskom. So Eskom is not going to be able to make profit. And at a later stage, Eskom will have to find a way of balancing their balance sheet, either through what people normally refer to as government bailouts, or either through a very high tariff increase. As we have seen over the past few years, electricity prices have been going up by 2 digits, and that is basically because of the mistakes that Nersa has been making. And Nersa is now trying to cover for those mistakes through the new methodology. That unfortunately is not going to help us a lot in the short term, and in the long term, we're going to have to pay quite a lot of money on electricity prices unless government comes in with what they call the government bailouts, which is basically equity injection.
Sampson, it seems like a pretty bleak picture that you've painted there. We spoke about the price increases, and today our focus is on the cost of living. Electricity prices shooting up by over 175% over the last few years. Is there any hope in sight for consumers who are now having to spend more of their money on electricity?
The hope is there, partly. Government has come up with a number of interventions, and some of these interventions may work, some of the interventions may not work. So when it comes to the price of goods and services, those are driven mainly by the electricity prices, which is basically the inputs into the production of goods and services. And if we look at the various interventions that are in place, the president announced the increase in the threshold for generation license up to 100 megawatts. So most of the industry people will start producing their own electricity or buying from IPPs at a much cheaper price, because that increase of threshold to 100 megawatts will result in a number of projects that will come on board. We anticipate that about 4,000 megawatts will come from that kind of an initiative. There's also the issue of allowing municipalities to buy directly from IPPs. We haven't seen a lot of municipalities taking up that aspect, because most of our municipalities are not in good financial position. So that is a problem. The Eskom has already streamlined the wheeling agreements or the wheeling process. And it's now easier for IPPs or in any private generator to generate electricity from wherever they will generate it and then wheel it to their customer. So those interventions, in my view, will result in competition in the electricity generation and transmission space, and can reduce electricity prices in the long run.
All right. A small ray of sunshine there from Sampson Mamphweli. Thank you so much. He's the director of the Stellenbosch University's Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy.